Hi everyone, my name is Shay Bollin. I go to the University of Wisconsin and play women's basketball. I think that the best advice I've ever been given probably comes from my mom, who was also my coach in high school. And she would always say that great things never come from comfort zones. And that's something that's always stuck with me throughout my college journey. And just knowing that even when things get hard, pushing yourself to go into an area that you might be unfamiliar with or a little bit more uncomfortable with is where you're going to grow the most. In my training, I have always thought it was really important to focus on the controllables. So in basketball, I feel like the things that I can control are how hard I run, being the loudest one in the gym and practice, just being a great teammate, always getting the most touches in, boxing out really physical every time. And I think when I set that foundation with the things that I can control, it makes, the shots or how my opponent is playing seem less overwhelming because I know that I have such a great foundation with other things going well. So that's what I always try to focus on. And then in terms of just the more technical side of things, I think it's just always important to get reps up on your own. I really believe that when you build confidence is the work that you do when no one's watching. And so just taking, even if it's 15 minutes a day to get a few extra shots in, makes me feel so much better in practice and the games. Something that I really focus on in terms of recovery, conditioning, that whole area is trying to just be 1% better every day. I think you're never going to be perfect with what you're eating. You're never probably going to be perfect in your sleep, but just knowing in season how important those things truly are and making sure I do little non-negotiable things every day, whether it's taking magnesium or drinking cherry juice to sleep better, or just making sure that I get in the weight room 5 minutes earlier to foam roll. I think that those things that you think might not be a big deal, when you do them continually over time, they really do add up and make you feel better in the long run. So I try to focus on food as fuel for my body and not something that is, going to make me lose or gain weight, but something that's going to make me feel better on the court. And so just trying to get enough protein in and, we're really lucky at this level to have so much education and so many resources. So I just try to take as full of advantage of it as I can. Yeah, so in high school, in terms of my recruiting process and just getting recognized by college coaches, I was pretty fortunate to have an AAU program that played on the Under Armour circuit. So we were constantly traveling all around the country, all throughout high school, playing in front of tons of different college coaches since I was probably in 7th grade. So luckily that process wasn't too difficult for me because coaches would send me letters or reach out to me, and I was able to then have that dialogue directly back to them. My mom runs one of the biggest AAU programs in New England, and so she has a lot of great relationships with different college coaches, and so having her help me navigate that process too is super helpful. And for some other teammates who maybe had a different journey, they were reaching out to schools or emailing schools on their own, and I think that is something that is super critical to just remember in the recruiting process, is that truly every single player's journey is entirely different. My journey is so different from my brother's journey or my best friend's journey. And so, my process was particularly smooth and I didn't have too much stress navigating it, but you also just never know what could happen. I ended up being in the transfer portal twice. And so you might not always get the decision right on the first try, but I think that what you just have to do in the recruiting process is trust your gut and go with what feels like home to you and what feels like the best situation. Just being in college and playing for 3 different universities, transferring twice, has been a very unexpected journey, I will say. I committed to a school with the goal in mind that I never wanted to transfer. And that was something that I always said throughout my recruiting process, was just that I want to be at a school for 4 years and I consider myself a really loyal person. So the fact that here we are now is kind of crazy. However, I think that I personally had to do what was in my best interest at the time. And you make decisions with all the information that you have and your feelings and emotion at the time. And when you look back in hindsight, obviously that there are things that you would maybe change, but I am just super blessed that I am where I am now. And I think that every journey that you go on is meant to teach you something. And every time I've transferred or had to move to a new state or a new school, I think that I've grown exponentially as a person and just become so much better from it. Whether it's been learning from new teammates or new coaches and just adapting different basketball philosophies. I feel like my knowledge of the game and just knowledge of how to be a good teammate and leader has grown a ton throughout having to navigate this process. So I think that I've just learned to stay true to myself and that to just continue to trust in my faith and that no matter how difficult things get, that they will get better and that there are coaches who truly value you and a place that you really will succeed. And just to go through that journey, I think is going to prepare me for everything outside of college sports. My experience in the transfer portal and going through just the process overall was definitely really stressful and something that I'm sure not many people want to go through. However, it is something that so many of us college athletes, especially in basketball, do have to navigate. And again, I was really lucky to have great people around me who were advocating for me and also who were just giving me advice and talking to different coaches and helping me figure out what would be the best fit for me. But I will say, I think something that was crucial to my portal process the first time around and the second time around was just keeping really strong relationships with coaches that I said no to the first time. A lot of coaches that reached out to me this last time that I was in the transfer portal, I had said no to in high school and the second time in the portal. But I think that doing it in a respectful way and making sure that they know how much I value them and appreciate them, even if that wasn't the place that I ended up choosing to play at, was really important because I still feel like they know who I am as a person and I recognized and valued who they were as people outside of just being college basketball coaches. So if I had burned those bridges, the first time around, or maybe if I just had committed to a school without calling them all individually, the process would have looked a lot different. So I think that it's super important whenever you're going through a recruiting process, whether it's in the portal or whether it's in high school, that you are super respectful to anyone who's giving you an opportunity to play at that level. Overall, the portal is just a lot different than high school because in high school, you have 4 years to essentially research and talk to coaches, talk to players on the team, where in the portal, you enter maybe in April. For me, it was in April, and then I made a decision in early May. So you really only have a month to decide where you want to spend potentially the next 3 years of your life. So it's definitely a big decision and a lot comes with it. But my biggest advice would just be to really do your research. Make sure that you talk to all the players on the team, ask the hard questions, ask the coaches the hard questions, and get all the information that you can before making a decision, because once you do, that will be your life for the next however many years. And so it's really important to make sure that you pick a place that you feel really comfortable and that you'll grow not only on the court or in your sport, but also as a person. My answer for why Wisconsin is probably a little bit different than most people here. When I entered into the transfer portal, I actually had all intentions of going back home and trying to find a school closer to home because I had been really far away from my family for the last 3 years and was just really missing them. However, when I first talked to my head coach, Coach Pinchton, I immediately felt a sense of comfort and home in our conversation, and just the vulnerability that we were able to share with each other was truly special. And on our first phone call, I don't even really think we talked much about basketball. She was truly just trying to understand me as a person and the way I think and my journey so far, and as well as she was sharing those same things with me. And I think she always talks about how the best leaders are vulnerable and, they share things with people that they're trying to lead and inspire. And she does just that and makes me want to do that as well. And so for her being here and just getting the job was a huge piece in wanting to come to Madison, as well as then when I came to campus, it was my second time coming to Madison because I had come in high school. But, when you're going on visits in high school, I think you look at things from a completely different perspective versus when you've already been in college and you know how day-to-day life operates. And anyone who's seen Madison's campus can just tell you, it's truly breathtaking. It's such an incredible place. And from the academic resources to the lakefront and the Capitol and all of the restaurants and things to do here. It's a pretty cool place. So once I got here and really met the entire coaching staff and some of the girls on the team and just spent some time in Madison, I was like, this is exactly where I want to be for the next 2 years. And this is where I want my family to come. And even though it's not necessarily home by location, it has become that by the people and just the atmosphere. So I'm super grateful that I decided to take the jump, even though it was maybe a little bit more uncomfortable, but I feel like it was the right decision. Being seen as a role model is something that I personally hold really close to my heart. I am the oldest of 3 younger siblings, and so that's something that I've aspired to be my entire life from when I was age 2 and my brother was born. And so trying to lead by example has always been really important to me. And I've been really blessed to have the most incredible role models and parents and grandparents and just coaches and friends and former teammates. And so to know that I'm in that position now to be that for not only my younger teammates, but also younger girls in the community or just people all around is something that's really cool and definitely a privilege that I don't take lightly. So just to know that my voice has impact and that my advice could potentially really help someone, or I could say something that sticks with someone for a long time, is an incredible opportunity. I think my biggest piece of advice that I would give to younger athletes trying to play in college is just to continue to keep the fun in the game. It can really quickly become overwhelming, or especially now with social media, it can become about rankings or what platform you're getting posted on or how many offers you have. But truly, once you get to this level, none of that matters. No one cares if you were a McDonald's All-American or if you were unranked, and that doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're here at this level and you deserve to be here. And so just keeping that mindset of being your best every day and trying to be better than you were yesterday and not comparing yourself to anyone else is just going to be so critical to that process, because ultimately you do want to compete with yourself every day and just be better than you were yesterday while having fun and remembering that the game is something that you get to do, not something that you have to do. And so approaching practice every day with the mindset that the game could be taken away from you at any moment and that it could be your last chance to play, and just go out there and have fun with your friends and make the most of every opportunity that you get. Hi everyone, my name is Shay Bollin and I play women's basketball at the University of Wisconsin, and you can check me out on Next Level Prep.